Welcome in. Just going to go ahead and make sure we're live here. Welcome in. I'm going to go ahead and break down the main slate. I didn't make a preview video this week. Live caught up. So here I am. It's 5:30 in the morning on the West Coast. So good morning to you all. 8:30, I suppose, for most of you, or somewhere in between. But yeah, it's early here. So just waking up. Yeah, we're going to be going over the main slate. Probably be a little quicker than usual. And then I'm going to go over some PrizePicks, just a way to get these all out to you. So yeah, if you have any questions, any comments, any PrizePicks you're thinking of, any plays you're thinking of, go ahead and send them out in the comments. All right, so it's a nice 14-game slate here. It's really 13 games because the USC game got canceled and they did not replace it. There's some ugly games on this one. The pricing's a little difficult too. It's a weird slate. Some really expensive running backs, some expensive quarterbacks, and some definite pay down options. So I think a lot of people are going to be going stars and studs. So you got 4 games with totals in the 40s. You got 1 game in the 30s. Shout out to Iowa playing beautiful football over there. And then we have 1 that's dead on in 50 in the Mississippi State Auburn game. Give me a second here. I'm just trying to share the link. I know this is great. Great broadcasting here. All right. So first up, Mississippi State, Auburn. Yeah, I took Mississippi State plus 5.5. Is that advisable? I don't know, but I kind of like this Mississippi State team. I think in general, people are pretty low on them. I don't know. I'm a Mike Leach guy. I understand it didn't work out well last year, but that was his first year in the SEC with the COVID offseason, so I don't really know what you expected. This offense takes time. So I think their defense is underratedly good. I do think they have a very good defensive line. I just think you can make the argument they have the better defense. And Bo Nix is one of the quarterbacks. So, yeah, I took Mississippi State plus points. Do I feel great about it? I don't know. Weird things happen in Auburn games, and Mississippi State has absolutely no special teams. So they seem to get pretty unlucky a lot of times, but a lot of that is on the special teams. All right, so Will Rogers, 7.4K. I think he's fine here. I think he's kind of getting overlooked. He has 30 DraftKings points in 5 of his last 7 games, and yet he's priced at 7.4K. Yeah, listen, this Auburn defense is good. They did a pretty good job shutting down this attack last week. I'm just trying to make sure I can see the comments here. Did a pretty good job shutting them down last year. However, that's the case with a lot of teams last year. Like I said, this Mississippi State team was different last year. They've really come together. Will Rogers looks like a much better quarterback. So I think he's fine, especially probably in cash. I'm not really sure what his upside is. It seems like he's kind of capped at that right around 30 points because he doesn't run the ball at all. But I do like him there. As far as the running backs go, Marks at 6.7K gets a ton of PPR usage. He's been pretty consistent. But I don't really see how you can get there in tournaments. Maybe for cash plays, that's good. Johnson at 3.9K, Dylan Johnson. He's way too cheap. He'll probably be some lineup fillers for a lot of people. He gets a ton of receiving work. I'm not really sure what his upside is, right? He's had a few games where he's around 20 points. But at 3.9K, if you just really need a lineup filler, Dylan Johnson should be on the field a fair amount. I guess you're kind of hoping Mississippi State gets out to an early deficit and he's in there more, but their running back usage is kind of difficult to forecast. Him and Marks, they kind of interchange. All right. As far as receivers, I think Mekhi Polk's going to be really overlooked at 7.6K. I'm not saying he's a core play or anything, but if you could fit a stack with him and Rogers, I think that's fine. And if you can fit a stack with him and Johnson, I think that's fine, probably in cash. But yeah, Mekhi Polk's the pretty clear wide receiver 1 on this team. Gets a pretty safe floor with all his PPR usage. I think Mekhi Polk's pretty fine. Anyone under that, I mean, Jaden Wally's just really underperformed at 4.8K. That's a secondary play, if anything. And anyone behind there is cheap, but has not done much on the slate. So let me know what you guys are thinking. I think I can see the comments. Hope I can see the comments. Sorry, I never go live. You guys have probably noticed I always pre-record videos, and now I'm going live. So it is a little bit different than normal. Okay. West Virginia versus Kansas State. Yeah, West Virginia, not a good football team. They did pull off a nice upset win a couple weeks ago, but yeah, Jarrett Diggy at 5.1K. Sometimes he throws the ball a lot, almost never throws it well. I think there's some better pay down options. If you really need price savings, go to Aiden O'Connell. Go to Tua's brother, Talia. I always call him Tua. All right, Letty Brown at 6.1K on West Virginia. I do think you have to have some interest in him. West Virginia makes their way onto every single slate, and it is kind of annoying. But Letty Brown's gotten pretty good usage. His usage has been up and down. Last year, it was like a surefire thing. This year, it's a little bit different. But he had 24 carries against TCU, 22 against Iowa State, went over 30 DraftKings points in each of those games. Now, we did get shut down last week against a very good Oklahoma State defense, but Oklahoma State's defense is quite a bit better than Kansas State's. I think we can all agree. So, yeah, I think he's okay at 6.1K. That's a tough decision to make. So you'll notice there's a few running backs on the slate that are super expensive. You got your Kenneth Walkers and your Breece Halls. If you're not paying up there, I think Letty Brown's a fine option. Deuce Vaughn as well is very expensive. So yeah, he's a fine option. Maybe a secondary play, but in both cash and GPPs, I don't hate it at all. All right, as far as wide receivers on West Virginia, I never recommend them. Willie Wright is a dangerous guy. He's a kick returner, punt returner, can break a long one. If anybody, I'd play him, but I don't know about that. Okay, I can't see the comments. Love Maryland QB and Jarrett Stack. Yeah, I have a lot of Talia. I don't have as many lineups as usual this week. I'm going to be gone all day long. I can't watch a single second of football until maybe the West Coast games at night. Very, very disappointing. So I'm not running 150 because I can't make any lineup changes for the afternoon. Long story short, but yeah, I like Talia. Jarrett, I've tried to stack him before. He's not super reliable, but the talent is there. So yeah, I don't hate that at all. I like what you're thinking. All right, Kansas State. Yeah, I played a lot of Skylar Thompson this year. I don't know why. His price is just seems to always be there. And they played some bad defenses, and he has not really come through for me. But that's okay because I don't think I'm going to play him here. West Virginia generally has a good defense. You look through West Virginia's game logs, they're totally up and down. They've had some very good performances, held Oklahoma to 16 points on the road, and then they totally flopped a couple other times on the road, gave up 45 to Baylor. So long story short, they're usually a solid team defensively, but on the road, it's a much more dicey proposition. They're going to give up 45 points or 16. I don't know. Basically what we know, Kansas State should control this game. They are the better team. If they have their way, they'll mostly slow it down. This just does not seem like a Skylar Thompson game. You're probably hoping on 3 rushing touchdowns, which he's done before, but really not reliable. And he has been banged up. He's getting a little more healthy. That's one reason his rushing production has been down. If you've been watching the games, like there was one game he took a hit. I think it was the TCU game. Took a hit on the very first play and just did not look the same. Looked like he should have gone out of the game, but he's a tough guy. So yeah, I'm not sure how healthy he is. Haven't seen any reporting because it's Kansas State, of course. But yeah, hampers that. We don't play Kansas State wide receivers. So if you are, I don't know. Let me know why, because that's not where I'm looking ever. Deuce Vaughn, 9.7K. Yeah, he's one of the pay up options. I think he's fine anywhere. He's gone over 30 points in 4 of his last 5, put up a 50 burger against Kansas. Now, you're going to look at those matchups, and he was playing Kansas, TCU, and Texas Tech for his last 3 games. So that's why he's been going off. But he's a stud. He gets a ton of receiving work. Probably going to get a couple receptions in this game. Like I said, the matchup's just okay. And there are some other pay-up options. I don't totally love this price for Deuce Vaughn. But I haven't played enough Deuce Vaughn this year is what I'll say. I've been kind of anti-Deuce Vaughn, and I was totally wrong a few weeks. So I don't know. If you love Deuce Vaughn, let me know. But his price has gone up so high. I just don't really see how you build a feasible lineup there. All right, Oklahoma, Baylor. Oklahoma is a 5.5-point favorite. These lines might be a little old. I put them out yesterday. And over under 62. One of your games of the weekend here. Caleb Williams is your price king at 10K. Can I pay up for Caleb Williams? I don't really think so. Again, with how expensive the running backs are, I guess unless you're going like a Letty Brown and then maybe a Wisconsin backup running back at 3K. It's hard for me to see. There are some decent pay down options at quarterback. I guess it is possible if you're going to run back in O'Connell or Italia. The matchup against Baylor. So Baylor's defense is weird. Obviously, they got torched by a dual threat quarterback last week in Chandler Morris at TCU. That Chandler Morris kid, oh my God, he looks like the best quarterback of all time. Is that because Baylor's defense stinks? I don't really think so. Their defense has been mostly solid, but they have been regressing a little bit. I do think they are beatable through the passing game. I saw Caleb Williams over passing yards was a popular play this week, and then it ballooned up like 40 or 50 points. And I don't hate that at all. Now, you look through his game logs. He had 27 points versus Kansas, even though the offense did nothing and went scoreless at half. So that's a little misleading. It's also a testament that he does run the ball a lot, and his floor is pretty solid. And he's gone over 30 fantasy points in every game he's played in. 31, 40, 43. Sorry, and then he had 27 at Kansas. Yeah, I mean, he's that expensive for a reason. So you guys probably know what it is with Caleb Williams by now. All right, Kennedy Brooks, running back, 7.7K. Probably not going to have much Kennedy Brooks this week, but you could definitely talk me into it. This Baylor defense is pretty good. I think they're more solid along the front seven than they are in the secondary. But Kennedy Brooks was on a heater until Texas Tech. And Texas Tech ain't very good, folks. But yeah, he had a dud. He had 35 yards against Texas Tech. They had a bye week last week. But he was clearly taking over the backfield. He had 38 fantasy points against Texas, 24 against TCU, 23 against Kansas. He's a tough one. I think at that price, when you have guys like Letty Brown at 6.1K, I think Kenny Brooks will probably be very low owned. Again, ownership on college football, very hard to tell. But you could talk me into Kenny Brooks going for 28 fantasy points. I don't think anybody would be surprised with that. So definitely a secondary play, if anything. Oklahoma wide receivers have mostly just been infuriating all season long. They've mostly just been disappointing all year long. So let's talk about this a little bit. Marvin Mims at 6.4. I mean, has to be one of the most disappointing guys in season long fantasy leagues. Shout out season long if you play season long. Kings Classic playoffs kick off this weekend. Playing CFF Insiders. Good luck, Heisey. But I already had Scott Moore put up a dud, 7 fantasy points in my wide receiver slot. So anyway, you guys don't give a shit about that. So anyway, Marvin Mims has been very disappointing. He blew up against Texas, 33 fantasy points. And he blew up against Texas Tech, 32 fantasy points. And sandwiched in between those against two terrible, terrible defenses. TCU's defense was so bad, their coach got fired after, 2 decades? And Kansas, they're not even worth speaking about, really. Sandwiched in between those. Yeah, against those two awful defenses, he had 7 points and 2 fantasy points. So what the hell's going on with Marvin Mims? Turning only. He could go for 30 points. He could get you 2 points. I mean, that's simply what it is. They don't use him very much. He's very, very efficient. You'll remember last year he ran a route every time he was on the field, but he's only on the field about 25% of the time, and he still managed to be very productive. So he is productive if they throw on the ball. I think how Oklahoma's going to best win this game would probably be attacking Baylor's secondary, right? So this could be a Marvin Mims game, but very, very, very risky. GPPs only. All right, Hazelwood at 6K. He's been like the target leader all year long for this Oklahoma team. He blew up against TCU with 3 touchdowns. But the most receiving yards he's ever had in a game this year is 61 against Nebraska. And that was a while ago. Only had 56 against TCU, and he had 3 touchdowns. So that tells you how they're using Hazelwood. Overall, good offense. 62 over under. 6K. I don't love it, but you can talk me into it. Okay, Mario Williams, I think, is going to be pretty popular. Very good freshman. One of the best freshman wide receivers in the country at 4K. He's probably going to be very popular. And I don't hate it. I mean, I've played him in the past. He has put up a dud in pretty much every single game except for his first 2. Then last week against Texas Tech, had 100 yards and a touchdown. I don't hate it. However, the thing with Mario Williams is that week he went off. That's because Michael Woods was out. So he's been splitting time with Michael Woods. And I like Michael Woods. I think he's good. Arkansas transfer. Michael Woods is supposed to play. News and notes here. He tweeted Wednesday he's back active. So if Woods is back active, that means he's back splitting time with Mario Williams. That means the secondary guys who were trying to play, Trevon West, Willis, any of those guys lose some luster. But 4K is still really cheap for either Woods or Williams. I think Woods probably have no ownership if you want to get pretty crazy, but he is coming off an injury. And like I said, he does split time. But there's not a lot of cheaper options I love this week. If you guys love any cheaper options, 4K and below, let me know. because I'm not seeing much. I did a deep dive. I'm not seeing much. But Woods and Williams, they're still on the short list, everything considered. All right, Baylor. Yeah, not going to get to Bohannon at 7.2K. You could make an argument for it, though. So I wouldn't talk you off because Oklahoma's secondary has been absolutely god-awful. They're supposed to be getting some guys back this week, I believe, off the bye week. They have been very banged up. So they should be better there, but that was still supposed to be the weakness going into the year, and it's clearly been a weakness. They've had an awful secondary. So Gary Bohannon, 7.2K, I mean, listen, he can run a little bit. He doesn't run a lot. You're kind of hoping on a rushing touchdown, but they do use him a lot on the goal line. All right, Abram Smith, 7.1K. I don't think I can get to Abram Smith this week. If you've been listening to the show week after week, you know I have not played enough Abram Smith, kind of like a Deuce Vaughn guy. He's been very good this year. I finally got to give him his props. Converted linebacker, very fun to watch. They have a very good offensive line. I do still think Oklahoma's defensive line is pretty good. They haven't been as good as they're supposed to be, but it's a really fun matchup if you're watching this game. Early kick. For some reason, this is an early kick. Good one to watch. Watch that battle. I would assume Baylor's going to win it because they've won that battle pretty much all year long. But I mean, I don't know. Oklahoma's has some studs that have underperformed all year long. So coming off a bye week might be a little different, more rested up. Anyway, Abram Smith's fine. I mean, he's a beast. He's already gone over 1,000 yards. Already has 11 touchdowns. Over under in this game 62. Closely lined game. You can convince me on pretty much anyone in this game. You could do a lot worse. All right, Tyquan Thornton's taken over the clear alpha role in the wide receivers at 6.8K. He's been a monster. He's had 41 fantasy points, 32 fantasy points in 2 of his last 4. One of those was against West Virginia, pretty decent defense. At 6.8K, that's too cheap, especially if they get behind in this game. If you're stacking, Thornton's pretty good. He's not like a core player or anything, but I think he might be a little overlooked. So you're going to say, well, he's $100 more than David Bell. Yeah, David Bell's a better play, but everybody's probably going to be on David Bell by now because for some reason he wasn't as owned as he should have been the last couple of weeks. So if you want to get a little bit different, you could like switch to Thornton over Bell. But yeah, Bell's in a vacuum the better play. But I mean, what, 25% of the time? 30% of the time, Thornton's going to outscore Bell, and that gives you a lot of leverage. So if you're looking for leverage, there you go. All right, RJ Sneed. I don't really play RJ Sneed at 4.5K, but again, decent option for anybody in this game. And then Ben Sims, their tight end at 4K. Like I said, not a lot of options in this range. Ben Sims, they've been using him all year long. Their new offensive coordinator is from BYU, and BYU likes to use their tight ends, in case you haven't heard. So that's why Ben Sims is having a good year, and he should continue to have a good year. Yeah. I think he had a big play or a touchdown. He had something last week that was called off. I don't know. He looked good, so his fantasy point should have been higher last week. Okay, UCF versus SMU. UCF is a 7-point dog, over under 60.5. Total seems low between these two teams. That's because UCF's really slowed it down with backup quarterback Mikey Keene, because Dylan Gabriel broke his collarbone. And yeah, I mean, Mikey Keene at 6.4K, been very bad from a statistics standpoint. The offense totally nosedived under him. And he threw 5 touchdowns against Temple and still only scored 27 fantasy points. Temple is awful. Temple has quit on the season. And while he still had a nice, like you take 27 fantasy points at 6.4K, but that seems like a ceiling. Doesn't run the ball at all. So I kind of wanted to talk myself into Mikey Keene as like a weird, oh, it's UCF, SMU, it's the American Conference. These games are always high scoring. And this is what his 5th game as starter. He's getting more comfortable. Listen, it's probably just not worth it. But I don't hate it. If you're playing 150, I'd sprinkle a few. All right, as far as running backs, big on the slate, more so for FanDuel. Isaiah Bowser, 6.6K on FanDuel. I would load up on him, but he's injured again, as he always seems to be injured, because he tries to run over anything and anyone in his path. It's awesome to watch, but he gets injured all the time. So he came back from injury, played a few games. Now he's injured again, left and did not return. He did practice Tuesday, so I'm going to assume he's going to play. But the reporting has been pretty bad around Bowser all year long. It's been very difficult to tell whether or not he's going to play. And I don't see it any different this week. So if you have a better read on the injury situation, let me know. Overall, at 6.3K on DraftKings, I'm not sure I could get there. I did play some of his overs on PrizePicks once I saw that he practiced. It was at 14. And I do have some of them in FanDuel at 6.6K. But hey, listen, he could be banged up. He could not play at all. That could be frustrating. Luckily, it's an early kick, so I'll be able to change lineups if I have to. At DraftKings, I'm not sure I could get there. But you can tell me, like, you get Bowser and Letty Brown. You might get 2 elite usages. You might get over 20 carries for each of those guys, and they're both around 6K. You could talk me into it, but nothing super strong. All right, Ryan O'Keefe at the wide receiver position, 7.2K. This kid is extremely fast, and now he's getting the ball a ton. He's gone over 20 fantasy points, over 25 fantasy points in each of his last 3 games. 18 before that, 17 before that. And that was when the offense was doing nothing, like I just told you. He's been their entire offense. They've been using him on jet sweeps, kind of like a Justin Hall situation for SMU. Or sorry, Justin Hall situation for, what am I thinking? Ball State, but not quite as much. So I think it does hurt him. So I do have some Ryan O'Keefe, 7.2K. Right, SMU's defense is no good. But Jalen Robinson's coming back. Jalen Robinson was expected to be the top receiver going into the year at 5.9K. So he's okay. I wish he was cheaper, right? If he was in the 4K range, he'd be in pretty much every lineup. 5.9K, I think that knocks Brandon Johnson a little bit at 4.8K. He's probably more touchdown dependent. Robinson coming off injury. He's more expensive than O'Keefe on FanDuel. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, that's something to monitor. Overall, coming off injury, a team that hasn't performed very well, I think that's a little risky. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Usually I get this video pre-recorded. I didn't get you guys a video, so I'm pumping something out here. It is 5:51 on Saturday. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Any plays. All right. J Thack asks, which SMU wide receiver you like most? Oh, boy. You had to ask that question. Oh, boy. SMU's wide receivers. Yeah, they've been a mess. It's been Danny Gray all year long. Danny Gray last week, I hope you played him. I don't think a ton of people did. He got me 2 touchdowns. The issue is here now with everyone healthy. So you see, Danny Gray's been remarkably consistent. So he would be the answer. But he's priced all the way up at 7.1K. And they spread the ball around a ton. I would not play Rashee Rice at 5.7K. I think he's more of a cash game guy in tourneys. Like, we haven't really seen the upside. Reggie Robertson at 4.8K. I've got very close to playing Reggie Robertson in a few lineups. I think I might have slipped him into a few. Basically, I still think he's the most talented wide receiver on this team. He just hasn't been healthy all year. It's like the Isaiah Bowser thing. If I knew he was healthy at 4.8K, I would tell you Reggie Robertson 100 times out of 100. However, he pretty clearly has not been used like he has been in years past. I still think that price difference between him and Gray is a little crazy. I think Gray's price point makes him a secondary play. Calcaterra at 4.3K, you could consider it. He's an Oklahoma transfer, very good tight end. Long story short, J-Thack, I don't have a ton of any one of these guys. I think Robertson price adjusted my top play, and then Danny Gray is definitely the top option, just from a straight up fantasy points. Yeah, I think they're all fine. SMU offense is amazing. I've been all over Tanner Mordecai. He's got me to the playoffs in the Kings Classic League. He has fallen a little bit in recent weeks. Had a very bad game against Memphis last week, in my opinion. Had 2 turnovers. He does turn the ball over a decent amount. And it is a rivalry game. Like, they're supposed to win. You think the game goes over the total? Yeah, no way I'm playing it under in this one for sure. I mean, like I said, between these two teams, with SMU, like SMU's a 7-point favorite. If SMU's going to cover a 7-point spread, that probably means they're scoring the ball a shit ton. If they don't score the ball a shit ton, they're probably not covering that spread, right? And it makes me a little nervous. So I always say with UCF, like, their defense isn't good, but their defensive line is pretty damn good. They got some transfers in there. Like, yeah, they could get a couple strip sacks on Mordecai. Wouldn't be surprised. So overall, Mordecai, 8.7K. He's a little more passing reliant than I would wish. I wish he would run the ball more because he has some wheels. Like, I feel like he should finish the year with like 8 rushing touchdowns, but I think he only has something like 2 on the year. So that scares me off a little bit. 8.7K. I still don't hate it. I don't hate any plays in this game. Like I said, it's very similar to the Baylor game. Decent over-under. All right, running backs on SMU. I wouldn't play any of them. Ulysses Bentley has just been an absolute mess. He's going through warm-ups against Memphis, and then he doesn't play. I think he was losing his starting job anyway. He's very talented, but I'm not a huge fan of his running style. All right, I won't get into that too much. But yeah, he dances around too much. It leaves a lot of yardage on the table, even though he is talented, pretty good receiver as well. So Trey Siggers is taking over. I think Trey Siggers is okay at 5.6K, but honestly, that's just not super appealing to me. They're more of a passing team. Is the Stone kid going to play a little? I haven't heard that. J-Thag, you've been seeing something I haven't seen? Stone is amazing. Stone is very good. Preston Stone. Yeah, if you're in your Dynasty CFF leagues, you want Preston Stone. I doubt it. It's right. UCF usually beats them. 7-point home favorites. They're having a 7-2 season. I doubt it. Only way that would be possible if it's Sonny Dykes is totally checked out on the season. And there have been a lot of rumors about Sonny Dykes jumping ship to a bigger job. But that's more speculation. I'm not willing to bet on it that Stone would play. But it can happen. All right, Rutgers. Let's skip right over the quarterback position because Noah Vedral is not good. He left last week's game against Wisconsin, but I'm not interested in anyone under him. Wimsat might play. He's supposed to be a big recruit, right? But I mean, he plays for Rutgers at 4.5K. I don't know if anyone got excited for him. Let me know. Talking about how they want to get him snaps so he doesn't transfer. Yeah, they could, but I would think they also want to win a rivalry game to a team they usually lose to. And I mean, he's a freshman, and Tanner Mordecai is like top 5 in every passing. So if he's getting upset against playing behind Mordecai, I mean, Mordecai's got a few years left of eligibility, and right now Mordecai's the better option. So I think they don't want Mordecai to leave either. He's already transferred once. But yeah, we could see. He might. I don't think it's anything worth playing DraftKings. But yeah, that might keep me off Mordecai a little bit. All right, Rutgers, Bo Melton at 5K. He's really the only guy I would consider. We're not sure who's going to be a quarterback for him. That's a concern. That's been a concern all year long. He has gone over 20 fantasy points twice this year. He's very talented. He could break a big one. This Indiana team isn't great. I'm not sure what their motivation levels are, but they're okay. Isaiah Pacheco at 4.1K, secondary play, if anything, for Rutgers. All right, Indiana. I almost talked myself into playing some Michael Penix, but we don't even know who's going to be at quarterback. Penix and Jack Tuttle were both practicing this week. Neither one has been very good this year. McCauley, I don't think you can play him. Yeah, and they haven't really said who's going to play. They said multiple quarterbacks are ready to go. What does that mean? I don't know. I think they're all healthy. It sounds like Michael Penix is going to play. I think Michael Penix gets the start. I would assume Michael Penix gets over 90% of the snaps. But who knows where this Indiana team is. They don't really have a ton of reason to play Penix, I suppose, if he's injured, and I think he's graduated after the season. That being said, he's been with that program forever. He's come back from a million injuries. If he's coming back, I'm pretty sure they just play him. It seems like the kind of team they are. Running back, Stephen Carr, bummer, at 5.3K. He's got a hurt ankle. He remains questionable. Only had 3 carries last week. That worries me. So probably off the car. Anyone below him, I would just rather play a Wisconsin running back than paying down for a backup Indiana running back. That sounds a little desperate to me. Indiana, Peyton Hendershot, 4.6K. He's been their top option. Freifogel at 4.6K has been very disappointing. If Penix does come back, I guess you could talk about a Freifogel, but I've just been playing Freifogel when it's been the wrong move for some of the year. So I'm not going to keep recommending that. So yeah, that game's ugly. Don't have a ton of that game. Maybe one guy. All right, Michigan, Penn State. Probably only want one guy from this one as well. Over-under is only 48.5. The line keeps moving. Last I checked it, Michigan was a favorite again. They opened as a favorite, then Penn State was a favorite for a little bit. Now Michigan is -1.5. So all that line movement tells me Sean Clifford may not play for Penn State. It's been impossible to get reporting on this guy. It's been like the 3rd straight week where there's speculation he's not going to play, and there's a bunch of message board stuff. Dude, who knows? He ended up playing and looking more healthy last week, so I'm assuming Clifford plays, but apparently nobody else is. So I don't know. Yeah, Michigan, I don't know why you'd play Cade McNamara against this Penn State defense. I don't know why you would play any pass catchers against this Penn State defense, unless you're going for mega leverage, in which case, sounds like you already know what you're doing, so go for it. All right, running back room. I just don't really see any options on Michigan. I mean, their secondary, Haskins and Corum, have been running the ball well. This offense has been better than most people are giving them credit for, especially running the ball. They've been somewhat matchup proof. Now, Blake Corum's banged up. Don't know if he's going to play. Said he has a chance. They aren't giving us good updates, so that just makes me overall not very excited for this one. Penn State, also not excited. Michigan does have a good defense. I would not play Sean Clifford at 5.8K. There have been times. Last week was the time. This week is not. Jahan Dotson is top pass catcher. He's all the way up at 8.8K. That's really, really, really tough to get to. I think he'll probably have like almost no ownership. You can say, hey, he has 22 catches in his last 2 games. Has over, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns in that span. I mean, yeah, this kid's been a beast. Lineup construction-wise, I just don't really see it, but you already know what it is with Jahan Dotson. Any secondary pass catching options against Michigan, I just don't really think that's the top way to go. And it's been relatively status quo. Parker Washington, second guy behind him, and then Lambert Smith behind that. But there's just not a ton of usage for either one of these guys. You're kind of hoping on a big play. And Michigan hasn't given up big plays all year until they played Michigan State, and they gave up a bunch of explosive runs and lost the game because of that. So Penn State has not been very explosive, so I don't know if I would be relying on that to happen. Noah Kane at running back. I played his unders on PrizePicks, under 9. Plays unders in the past. He splits usage with Kayvon Lee and John Lovitz. And it sounds like Devin Ford might be coming back and getting more. So, yeah, no way. If you're playing a Penn State running back, let me know why, because I want to know what you are on so I can get some of that too. Or not. All right, Northwestern, Wisconsin. Wisconsin, 24.5-point favorites. For an offense like Wisconsin to be favored by 24.5 points, you already know what the deal is in this game. Over-under is only 41.5. Let's skip right over Northwestern, shall we? Wisconsin's defense is great. Northwestern's offense, disgusting. It's as simple as it is. All right, Wisconsin. Yeah, you're not playing Graham Mertz. I think if Wisconsin wanted to, and they might want to, honestly, they might. They could attempt 0 passes in this game, and they'd win by at least, 21? They get close to covering spread. They probably would cover the spread. Now watch, they're going to go out and lay a dud. Yeah, this Wisconsin team hasn't been good for most of the year, but they're picking it up. All right, so what it is here, it's the Braylon Allen show. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I love Braylon Allen. Now the show is his because every running back on the team seemingly is gone. Jalen Berger, gone. Garendo, out. Ches Malusi, out. He's out for the season, right? Missed the remainder of the season, yeah. So won't be available for spring ball either. So this is the Braylon Allen show. They only have a couple scholarship running backs back there. Braylon Allen's young. Braylon Allen is an absolute truck. He's an absolute beast of a man. Even though he's only, 17? Has he turned 18 yet? Last we checked, he was only 17 years old. Can't say enough good things about Braylon Allen. He's gone over 100 rushing yards in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight games. That while splitting time. That while being a 17-year-old in the Big Ten. That while being recruited as a linebacker and entering the year. What was he? 4th on the depth chart? 5th? Oh my God, this kid's a stud. Yeah, I like me some Braylon Allen. Northwestern's not good. You already know what it is. 8.2K. Seeing that price on Braylon Allen, he's priced up like right by Kenneth Walker, right? Only 700 difference. That's tough. That price does make it tough. I think he is still a top option, and I could still recommend him. When you consider everything, such a big favorite, considering they might attempt 0 passes if they get their way. No, they'll probably attempt 9, 12. I don't hate it. So if we're looking for someone behind Braylon Allen, let's try to do a little digging at who we would play, because Northwestern's really bad, right? And they like to divvy up the carries. They're probably not going to give Braylon Allen 40 carries. Probably not, although we kind of hope they do for DFS. I think the guy behind him to consider is Julius Davis. Had 7 carries last week. He's 3K. If you need a punt play, I think he's my favorite punt play at 3K. Again, hasn't done much this year, but with all the injuries, easy matchup, huge favorite. Let me know. If you guys like anyone else, cheap running back in Wisconsin, I kind of came up Julius Davis was going to be the guy behind Allen. All right, Georgia versus Tennessee. Stetson Bennett, 7.5K. Haha, funny. All right, so the thing with Georgia is they're going to score a lot of points because Tennessee's defense is really bad. Tennessee plays at a high tempo. This is a very volatile game, right? Tennessee's probably going to score their points. Their team total is 17.5, and Georgia has allowed pretty much 17.5 points all year long combined to all their opponents. So Tennessee's offense is good. I owe a little bit of an apology to Josh Heupel. Maybe. I'm not sure I'm ready to give it yet, but I'm getting close. I just said he wasn't a very good football coach, and UCF was getting worse under his watch, and he parlayed that into an SEC gig. I don't really know how, but it's clearly worked offensively. Clearly. So give him mad props for that. But the defense still sucks. So yeah, there's a chance Georgia just runs it up here. There's a chance Tennessee has a couple quick 3-and-outs with that fast pace, and then Georgia gets a couple short fields, and the next thing you know, it's 24-0. But you already know what it is with Georgia. If they spread the ball out too much, you never play their quarterbacks. If you're playing Brock Bowers at 5.8K, he's their tight end. He's been kind of their go-to guy. We've seen that regress in recent weeks. He has single-digit points in 3 of his last 5, but the other 2 in that span, he has over 30 fantasy points. So maybe a GPP option against a bad defense. Jermaine Burton at 5.2K. Very high on Jermaine Burton. I think he is pretty clearly the top. Started 25 on PrizePicks and a few NFL picks, and it got me to 300. Yeah, PrizePicks, dude. PrizePicks has been the most profitable platform I've played on. And I got 3 showdown takedowns, 2 of them single bullet on and yeah, I know those are just showdowns on CFP, so those payouts aren't great. And still, PrizePicks has been far and away the most profitable platform. I cannot recommend enough. I will talk about it at the end of the show. If there's any you guys want to throw out there, you can. I'm just going to read off all that I've played. We can see if there's any you guys like, but yeah, PrizePicks has been absolutely amazing. Yeah, I played a bunch of Braylon Allen overs. I played him at 16.5, played him at 17.5. I think he's up to like 18.5 now. It just keeps going up. His rushing yardage is pretty high, but he probably gets over that as well. So yeah, I think Jermaine Burton's really good. I think he could have a blow-up spot against a bad defense. He has been injured all year long. It's been like the Isaiah Bowser show. He's in, he's out, he's in, he's out. But when he's in, he's produced. He's had 18 fantasy points, 16 fantasy points, 16 fantasy points once again. I think he's healthy. I think he's very clearly the most talented wide receiver on this team, and they have a lot of talented wide receivers, right? All 5 stars. It's Georgia. Jermaine Burton, I like it. It's really risky, again, GPP only, and he's not like a core player or anything, but yeah, I mean, he could get 2 long touchdowns. Nobody would be surprised. All right, running backs. Yeah, Xavier White's the guy, but he just doesn't get the usage you would expect as a 6.8K back. Hasn't eclipsed 15 carries in any of his last 3 games. This would seem like a game where maybe he'd get more carries, but you could say that a lot, and it just hasn't happened. This offense is too talented. They divvy up the usage too much. James Cook at 5.9K, he would have to be cheaper for me to consider. Any of the other running backs behind him, very talented, but just aren't getting enough usage to really consider, in my opinion. Tennessee, yeah, I'm not going to get there with Hendon Hooker. I bet some people will because he's a dual threat quarterback and he's priced at 6.5K and he's been an absolute stud. But I mean, the fact of the matter is he's playing Georgia. Like, I'm not going to lie. I had a few shares of Anthony Richardson in 150s and against Georgia, figuring, hey, maybe he runs for a long touchdown and nobody will own him and he's really cheap. Obviously, that didn't work out. I think he had, negative fantasy points? He got a concussion. That's what happens when you play Georgia's defense. Jordan Davis, by the way, I plays over 1.5 tackles. This guy should be a Heisman candidate. He's a beast on the defensive line. This whole defensive line's a beast. He's had at least 2 tackles in every game except his last game. So anyway, yeah, I'm not going to get there with Hooker. If you are, sure, like I could see it. They could score. Listen, it could happen. This Georgia team probably isn't going to hold every single team they play to like 4 points. Who holds teams to 4 points? An average of 4 points. But they might. They might, right? On the other hand, this is probably the best offense they played all year long. Like Tennessee could score 27 points and Hooker could have 27 fantasy points. Nobody would be surprised. Running backs are super banged up for Tennessee. I don't think it matters, so I'm not going to spend time. Sounds like, what's his first name? Jalen Wright. Sounds like he might play a lot because Tyon Evans and Bryce Small are banged up. There hasn't been a lot of reporting, but the way they made it sound banged up, I would not think these guys get a lot of carries. They probably won't get a lot of carries anyway. They're playing Georgia. Let's move on. Wide receivers, I played Velus Jones over 3.5 receptions on DraftKings. That's just on PrizePicks. That's just kind of an auto play for me. He gets a lot of receptions. He's been pretty good. He's been very consistent. Toughest matchup to date by far, but at 4.6K, I guess it's not the worst if you have to play somebody. Cedric Tillman, I can't get there. He's also been remarkably consistent, but again, very tough matchup. Have you ever tried PrizePicks in sports other than CFB and CBB? That's got to be where they make money. Yes, it's much harder. I don't understand it. The college ones are so much easier, and then everyone just drains money on the NFL. I've watched some of the videos because I'm like, obviously PrizePicks has been pretty good. I'm like, I'll throw some PrizePicks in on Sunday, and I don't follow the NFL super closely, right? I just have my home leagues. So I try to watch some of the videos of the guys going over it, and like the edge that they have is like, oh, his rushing yardage is listed at 79.5. But he's averaging 81 on the season, and the defense he's playing is giving up 82, right? It's like they have like a 3-yard. Oh, he's gone over this in 5 of his last 6 games, but he's gone over by 5 yards. In college football, you have guys that fly over. Like, yeah, you still miss sometimes college football, obviously, but like when you hit in college football, sometimes, right? Like Kanata Mumfield, his over under was 14.5 on Tuesday, and he had 38 fantasy points, whatever he had. That's probably off, but he went way over. So yeah, that must be where they made money. I'm trying to get more into college basketball. Right now, it's just fully college football for the most part. But yeah, college sports are where it's at for PrizePicks. Absolutely 100%. That and the MMA offerings are not bad either. Good MMA card at 10 o'clock. All right, anyway, let's move on. I said this was going to be shorter, and it's going to be longer than any of the videos. All right, Miami, Florida State. Yeah, this one's sneaky. I like this game. It's a rivalry game, so sometimes rivalry games are lower scoring than they seem like they should be on paper, and that could be the case here. But Florida State just hasn't tackled well, and Their secondary is pretty bad. And Miami is one of the worst tackling teams in all of college football, one of the least disciplined teams in all of college football. Manny Diaz, we love you. And they're playing better. I'll give them some props. I won't totally shit on Miami, even though I love to do that. They're playing better, and their offense has been scoring a ton of points. Miami's given up at least 30 points in each of the last 5 games, and they have been scoring the ball and winning as well. So we can expect maybe another shootout. I think Tyler Van Dyke at 8K. I think Florida State secondary is bad. Remember, they looked Jack Cohn looked like Peyton Manning in week 1. Joe Montana, I guess, would be a more apt analogy there. I don't hate him. He doesn't run the ball a lot, but he's a big kid. He could stumble into a rushing touchdown, and he's been throwing the ball all over the yard. Charles Rambo is going to be his top stacking option, but you already know that, 8K. They've kind of changed up the wide receiver rotation since Van Dyke has taken over, and it's clearly worked. But Rambo's become the clear number 1 guy. 200 yards his last game, 100 yards before that, 127 before that. In cash games, he's fine. He's priced as one of the top wide receiver options. I don't hate that at all. I think anyone behind him, Will Mallory, the tight end. If you guys watch this show, you know. I try to play Will Mallory, and he does nothing. And then the last 3 weeks, I haven't played any Will Mallory. And what is he doing? Something. It's like the Josh Wiley effect. These tight ends, just so hard to predict tight ends in college. But yeah, I think Will Mallory's fine. Like, I still think he's really good. He's dropped a ton of passes. Derek King would leave him wide open in the end zone at least, 2-3 times a game. It was very, very fun to watch when you had him in your DFS lineups. But now Derek King's not playing. So and Van Dyke seems to be finding Will Mallory more. So 3.4K, again, not a lot of pay down options. I think he's okay. Mike Harley hasn't been seeing the field as much at 4.2K. I'm not going to get there for you. Keyshawn Smith, 5.1K. You could talk me into Keyshawn Smith. The issue is he's seen a huge price jump. Like, he was down at 3.7K against Pitt. That was great. On FanDuel, he was like crazy owned. He was like over 50% owned. But on DraftKings, he still had a nice ownership at that price. I think now his ownership's going to go way up, and his price has already gone way up. So not quite as an appealing option, but he's a very talented kid. If you want to get a little crazy, Xavier Restrepo doesn't see the field a ton, but when he is on the field, he's very productive at 3.3K. I do think he's a pretty talented kid, but that's a little dicey. But if you want a crazy GPP play, maybe. All right, Rooster Knighton at 7.2K. Yeah, he's a top option. I think he is for a reason. He's just taken off, right? Cameron Harris never did all that much. It was hit or miss. Jalen Knighton's good. He's good. He gets a lot of receiving work as well, even though he had no catches last week for some reason, but that's okay because he had 32 carries. Xavier Restrepo and option attorneys. I think so. I don't think it's a strong play. I'll be honest. I think I have like 1 share of him. I've tried it out before and it didn't work at all. I think I tried it last week. It didn't work at all against Georgia Tech. He's not on the field a ton, but they've changed up their rotation a little bit. He's getting on the field a little more. They're going more with the youth movement, and it is working. So very dicey, but possibly. But yeah, Jalen Knighton, he's a beast. And then you look at some of these teams he was going up against. Let's go over his last 4 games. We're trying to establish, is he worth paying up for? I think he might be. Like, again, Kenneth Walker's 8.9K, Breece Hall's 9.5K. Who are you're going to need a little price saving somewhere. I think Jalen Knighton, I assume he's going to be a little popular. But yeah, he had 24 fantasy points against Georgia Tech, 26 against Pitt, 28 against NC State, 36 against UNC. Obviously, GT and UNC have no good defenses. Pitt has a very good defensive line. If you watch them on, Thursday? They have a very good defensive line. They have for like 20 years. Shout out Aaron Donald. You already know what it is with Pitt. So 26 fantasy points against them is pretty damn impressive. Had 2 rushing touchdowns. And then NC State, I think, has the 2nd best defensive line in the ACC. I know they've had some injuries, but that's a very, very good defensive front. And he still managed 28 fantasy points. So overall, what I'm trying to say is he's matchup proof, and Florida State isn't a very good matchup. So Rooster Knighton, solid play. Cash, GPP. All right, Jordan Travis at 6.9K. Yeah, I think I'm going to talk myself into some Jordan Travis. I don't know if you want to be talked into Jordan Travis or not. So if you don't want to, cover your ears because he's dicey. But yeah, so he missed last week with the flu. He's supposed to be back practicing. I'd assume he's going to be at 100%. They said on Tuesday he wasn't 100%. But of course, if he missed the game Saturday, he's not going to be quite 100% by Tuesday. So I think he will be here. Obviously, if he's not 100%, there is a worry. Maybe they get Mackenzie Milton back in there on some snaps. So it's a little dicey, obviously, GPP only. But Jordan Travis, here's the thing. Miami's defense cannot tackle. Miami's defense gives up like one of the highest explosive run rates in the entire country. That's all Florida State does offensively is try to get explosive runs. That's all they can do. So yeah, I think, right? What's this game lined at? 2.5 Miami, over under 60.5, could be back and forth. Yeah, Jordan Travis, 6.9K. He's probably going to get totally overlooked. I don't hate him. Do not play Florida State wide receivers. Do not stack Jordan Travis. You're hoping for 2 rushing touchdowns if you're playing him. So that would not correlate to stacking. Deshaun Corbin, 7K. That price is too high for me. Like I said, though, it's a good matchup. He's done nothing. He has 30 yards, 33 yards in his last 2 games. He's done nothing, but he does like to hit explosive plays. Against Miami, he could hit a few, but that price is too much for me. Like he's almost 1,000 more than Letty Brown. All right, moving on. Iowa State, Texas Tech. You can talk me into Brock Purdy as well in this mid-range. There's not a ton of mid-range guys I like, but Brock Purdy, I mean, Texas Tech's defense is not good. And you go back looking through their game logs, Texas Tech's rush defense has actually been okay. They've actually been better defending the run. They held Oklahoma to under, what was it? They got like 78 total rushing yards, under 100 yards. So I'm not saying their rush defense is good, but that's where they're better. Their pass defense is awful. They can't cover anybody. They give up, 6 passing touchdowns to Caleb Williams? Brock Purdy's not Caleb Williams. That is a fact. But Iowa State is 10.5-point favorites, over under at 58.5. Texas Tech, who knows where they are, right? They already fired their coach. Who knows where they are in the season? Brock Purdy, this Iowa State team, like this is a veteran team. They seem proud. They seem like, I know they have 3 losses, but this is not a team that gets to 3 losses and quits, in my opinion. That's not what the program is. You could talk me into a big Brock Purdy game. You could. Maybe still a secondary option, but I don't know. I'm going to have a few shares of Brock Purdy for sure. All right, receiving options. I'm going to actually talk myself into Xavier Hutchinson. I don't really know if I've ever played much Xavier Hutchinson. His usage has been off the charts. Now, he is 7.4K for an Iowa State receiver. Normally, I would never recommend that. But when you're looking through at his usage, I mean, it's been phenomenal. If he gets 10 receptions this game, nobody's going to be surprised. And Texas Tech can't cover, can't tackle. Their safeties can't tackle at all. It's the first thing you notice when you watch the team. Like, they just cannot tackle flat out. So, yeah, I could actually talk myself into some Xavier Hutchinson. Charlie Kohler at 4.5K. You already know what it is with him. He's always a lineup filler down there. He's kind of touchdown reliant. But his usage is also pretty good. 5 catches, 4 catches, 4 catches, 6 catches, 5 catches. Only 1 dud in his game logs. So his floor is okay. He's had 1 dud. So, yeah, I think Charlie Kohler's okay. 4.5K. Anyone below that, they don't use. All right, Breece Hall at 9.5K. You already know what it is with Breece Hall. If you can pay up for him, sure. Sure. There are some other elite options you don't have to get to. Rooster Knighton's significantly cheaper. Kenneth Walker is even $600 cheaper. That probably means Breece Hall will be lower owned than those guys. And like I said, this is a proud team that's going to feed their guys. I think Breece Hall's okay. I'm not going to be totally overexposed on him with that price range. It's just hard to be. And like I said, Texas Tech's rush defense has been better than you would expect. But I'm not really sure that matters when they're 10.5-point favorites, right? So you already know what it is with Breece Hall. All right, Minnesota plus 4.5 against Iowa. The over-under in this one's 37.5. So I think we should just totally skip this. Unless there's anyone you want to talk about in this game, there's not really much for me. I played some Minnesota plus 5. I just think Iowa sucks, and I've said that all year long. And they made me look real stupid when they're the number 2 ranked team in the country. And now they're making me look a little less stupid. Hopefully, they don't make me lose my bet here and make me look stupid once again. But yeah, Iowa's not good, and Minnesota has good defense. Iowa has a good rush defense that shuts down what Minnesota wants to do offensively. So Kai Thomas at 6.9K, I can't get there against Iowa. He's been getting more usage. The usage has been really hard to forecast. So basically, the whole running back room is gone. It's like Wisconsin. Everyone's injured. Everyone's gone. They have no scholarship. I think they have 2 left. Cam Wiley transferred, so I think they're down to 2 scholarship running backs. Bryce Williams is out for the year. Trey Potts is out for the year. Will Ibrahim's out for the year. Kai Thomas is probably the number 1 guy at 6.9K. You're saying you're getting a Minnesota top rusher at 6.9K. I would say, yeah, you are, but he's splitting usage with Marquise Irving. I think Marquise Irving is probably going to be the better back in his career, but he's younger. He's a true freshman, whereas Kai Thomas is a redshirt freshman. I think that price difference, if you're going to play one, I would just play Marquise Irving, but because they're probably going to both get decent usage, right? They're probably going to run the ball a shit ton in this game. But yeah, that's really all I want to talk about in this game, because I'm kind of getting a yucky feeling talking about this. Too early to be talking about this. This is making me sad. This game is sad. Sam Laporta, 4.4K. If you really want to play anyone in Iowa, play either him or Arlen Bruce, 3.8K. If you want like leverage or something, I don't know. Alex Padilla is going to be in at quarterback for Iowa, but if you're playing an Iowa quarterback, I don't know. God help you. Purdue, Iowa State. 2 more games here. Purdue, Iowa State, and then we have Maryland, Michigan State. All right, Purdue. Yeah, Purdue's been a giant killer. All they do is beat top 5 teams. So apparently they're going to beat Iowa State here, right? Or Ohio State here. That's how it works, right? I don't know. Not so fast. Aiden O'Connell. I talked about him a little bit on my show a few weeks ago. I said this guy's throwing the ball like 50 times a game every now and then. Not 50 times a game, but he gets over 50 pass attempts. He's done that twice in his last 5, over 40 passing attempts. 4 of his last 5, and against Wisconsin, he had 32. So he's thrown the ball a ton, and he has some good receivers. Like, if you watch this team, they spread it around. It's not just David Bell. They do have good receivers. That's where they recruit best, is at the receiver position. And their defense is playing better than you would expect. So I'm not trying to say I called Aiden O'Connell, but it was nice having him last week. This week, his price is 5.4K. It's like, what happened to his price? So I think he's going to be super popular. Usually you want to be on that train before everyone else is on it. And now everyone's probably on the Aiden O'Connell train. I think he's okay. This Ohio State defense is one of the tougher units to call in the country. They've been really bad for most of the year. That's just flat out what it is. They've just been a bad defense. They've changed some things. They've changed their defensive scheme. They've changed their defensive play caller. I don't even know if they technically changed their defensive coordinator, but because they hurt the guy's feelings, even though he was bad. I don't know what they did, but they changed a few things. It's looked a little better. They still have talent defensively, but I think their secondary is where they're weakest. So they shut down the run very well, and Purdue cannot run the ball. So yes, we took King Drew unders. I think it was under 47.5 rushing yards on PrizePicks. We took his under fantasy points, as we have been pretty much all year long. He's splitting carries with Xander Horvath, and Xander Horvath is the better receiver. So yes, we took King Drew's unders in this tough matchup. So that means they're probably going to pass the ball more. I would be surprised if you don't see another 40 passing attempts from Aiden O'Connell, unless Ohio State just completely controls the ball. So yeah, he's fine at 5.4K. I would not talk you off. I have a decent amount of Aiden O'Connell, even though, like I said, I wish I didn't have as much, but it's just hard not to with the price point. So if you want to get different, maybe consider Talia instead, although Talia will be priced up as well. David Bell, yeah, I think if you're playing cash, it's very hard to get off of David Bell at 6.7K. He's had some blow-up games and GPPs as well. They just refuse to raise his price. I don't really know why. I think he's fine. If you were smart, and I'm not sure Ohio State's smart or not from what we've seen on their defense, right, you're just going to put a safety over the top. You're just going to limit David Bell and let everyone else do the work. So there's a possibility that happens. Usually in a matchup like this, where Ohio State's been pretty much rolling every team they play, and they're a huge favorite, I would expect they play this one somewhat smart. But that also means they might get out to a big lead. Purdue's just going to be throwing from behind, and then maybe they relax a little bit on their scheme defensively. You can see some garbage time points, even if David Bell doesn't get out to a huge one. So he's fine. He's not the totally like 100% owned like he was the last couple of weeks, but the price is just insane. Jackson Anthrop has had 2 big games at 4.2K. What if you saw like one of those touchdowns from last week? Like that touchdown's not going to happen. It looks like he was moving in slow motion, and just nobody could tackle him. So against Ohio State, I'd be pretty surprised if that happens. But at 4.2K, he gets a decent amount of usage. They've been using him a lot in the rushing game too. He's a decent pay down guy. Other than that, guys are really cannibalizing each other. That sounds violent, but they're cannibalizing each other's usage. Milton Wright at 4K, I think he is pretty good. Brock Thompson's getting the ball game a little bit 3.2, but none of these guys I can recommend. Sheffield's the stone cold minimum at 3K. I'm not really sure why. He's been on the field a little bit, but like he's not getting very many fantasy points. But right, if they put a safety over the top of Bell, it could be a guy like Sheffield getting a few points. So I guess you really need a punt, but that's a little crazy, right? So the big news is their tight end Payne Durham, 3.8K. He was in uniform for warmups last week and then didn't play. And we aren't really sure why. There hasn't been reporting. So if you have any news on Payne Durham, let me know. But I have not seen any to say with confidence. If he does play, and this is going to be difficult, you're going to be checking your lineups. And you may not know, because the updates we got last week is that he was dressed and then he didn't play. And we haven't gotten no updates of any worth this week that I've seen. But if he does play at 3.8K, I think Payne Durham is a very fine option. All right, Ohio State, you already know what it is. This offense has been a Death Star. Purdue's defense has actually been pretty good. Have they had to face anyone with the caliber of Ohio State? No, not really. CJ Stroud at 9.4K. That price is a little difficult for me to get to, like only 6K below or 600 below Caleb Williams. But I still would never talk you off playing CJ Stroud. He's had a couple down games. I think people are going to be off him. Would you be surprised if he puts up a 35-point showing? No, you wouldn't. But pretty much the whole talk going into this game is that they need to run the ball more. So maybe they do that, or maybe that's just radio talk. Guys doing that, and they don't really give a shit. They're going to do what they're going to do and keep winning games and probably make it to the playoffs. So I don't really know how much they have to listen to guys like me talking about their team. All right, Ohio State wide receivers. Garrett Wilson's supposed to be back at 6.9K. Sounds fine to me. Probably won't be at 100%. Jackson Smith and Jiba Seed has seen one of the biggest price jumps I've ever seen. He's all the way up to 7.8K after being just 5.8K, a whole 2K difference. And yeah, he had a monster game. Yeah, he's really good. Yeah, he's seen at least 5 catches in each of his last 4 games. 7.8K, that's a little too pricey for me. Maybe I'm misreading that one. I think if Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave are back, it's going to be what we've seen for most of the year, where these guys kind of cannibalize each other. Again, violence, where they cannibalize each other's usage to the point where it's difficult to read. I think Chris Olave is just too cheap, flat out. He's, again, kind of like what I said with Stroud. He's had a couple bad games in a row. People are probably going to be off him. I think he is too cheap. secondary play, if anything, but definitely too cheap. All right, Maryland. Yeah, so I think everyone's going to be on Maryland this week, which makes me nervous because usually all I do is shit talk Maryland. And usually all I do is shit talk Talia, which you shouldn't be doing. They're college kids. But usually all I do is point out his demerits instead of his positives. I like Talia's matchup. Michigan State, secondary's not good. Team's overrated. Maryland's defense can't stop anybody. It could be a shootout. 61.5 points total. Maryland's 13-point dogs. They should be throwing from behind. Michigan State they're the team that allowed O'Connell to throw for over 500 yards last week. Could Talia do it again? Sure, maybe he could. I would like to see him running the ball a little bit more. He showed that last year somewhat, and then has totally gotten away from it. He's getting sacked a ton as well. So, but at 5.9K, if you're paying down, yeah, I don't hate Talia. Someone mentioned it earlier in the show. I have a decent amount of Talia. Do I feel great about it? No. I mean, GPP only. Mostly all I've done is talk bad about this Maryland program and the offense, and now I'm playing Talia. But with the matchup so good, I think you have to consider it, and the price point so good. As far as pass catching options, Okonkwo, the tight end, pretty good at 4.2K. Carrier had a blow-up game and has done nothing in his career other than that, 4.7K. So I guess if GPP you want to get there, but I don't really see how you can unless you're just seeing that huge blow-up on his schedule and hoping he gets another one. It ain't good. Michigan State can't cover anybody. They can't tackle. But Raheem Jarrett's the top guy, 5-star wide receiver, 4.5K. He's been relatively consistent. He's hit double digits in each of his last 5 games, 9.6 the one before that. But he just hasn't really had that blow-up spot. So I think he's okay. All right, Michigan State. Oh, yeah, I don't play Maryland running backs. Michigan State. Peyton Thorne at 7K. I've been off him all year. You could get back on him here. He's been totally boomer bust. Maryland's defense is not good. I think they're worse in the secondary. At 7K, you can play him. If you wanted a stacking option, his stacking options are not bad. Jaden Reed at 6.1K. Again, Maryland's defense is really bad. He could have a big game. And Trey Mosley, he was really good as a pay down option last week. He's seen a price jump to 4.6K. But since Jalen Naylor is supposed to be still out, last I've seen, Trey Mosley at 4.6K is fine. All right, other than that, Kenneth Walker, 8.9K. You already know this. He breaks slates. That's what Kenneth Walker does. He gets a ton of usage. I don't know what there's to say about Kenneth Walker. He's a beast. Maryland's defense better at stopping the run than the pass, but they are not great anywhere. So Kenneth Walker, if you want to pay up, I think this is a decent week to do that. I'll be doing it in some spots. All right. Let's see if we can get some prize picks. If you have any more questions about the slate, go ahead and let me know. I think overall, like the pricing is tough, right? The running back pricing is tough. Wide receivers. I don't love the wide receiver options other than the high price guys. I think like this high 6K range with David Bell and Chris Olave maybe. But other than that, I think what most people are going to be doing, it's probably a good option, is to pay up at running back, pay down at quarterback, maybe pay up for one, pay down for the other, and then pay down at wide receiver is what most people will be doing. But I just don't love the pay down options at receiver. There's nobody that totally. There's a few good options I mentioned, but they're more lineup fillers than anything. And I don't really like having 3 lineup fillers in there, right? That'd be 3 to 4 lineup fillers. So I think you need to pay down a little bit at running back, but that's hard. So some of the afternoon slates where you get some cheaper running backs, where you can play maybe 3 or 4 running backs. I know 4 running backs is a little crazy. You get like the Chris Rodriguez, you get Jalen Warren in the 6K range. That's way easier for me to build a lineup. So the lineups are difficult to build. It's kind of forcing me to pay down. But yeah. If you guys have any options you like that I didn't hit. Best play under 4K. The guy I probably have the most of is Julius Davis, running back for Wisconsin at Stone Cold Min. Again, playing Northwestern. He could do nothing, but there's like nobody on that running back depth chart. There's nobody. It's like him and Braylon Allen. So I'm going to assume he gets a lot. All right, let me read off some of the prize picks I played. Some of these have moved. Like I said, Jordan Davis over 1.5 tackles. Velus Jones over 3.5 receptions. King Daru under 47.5 rushing yards. Chance Nolan, quarterback Oregon State, under 199.5 passing yards. Zach Calzada, quarterback Texas A&M, under 194.5 passing yards. I think both those teams are going to look to run the ball. Will Rogers over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Will Rogers over 297.5 passing yards. That one has moved. I don't like it quite as much where it's at, but still like the passing TD, I guess. They throw the ball a ton. throwing the ball 50 times, it's easy to stumble into a couple touchdowns. Alton McCaskill, Houston running back, over 1 rushing touchdown. They're playing Temple. Mentioned them earlier on the show. Fine program. Jermaine Robertson, over 5.5 receptions. Playing that pretty much every week. It's been hitting pretty much every week. I think it was at 6 last week. Somehow it went down, even though it hit. Makes no sense. Okay, Michael Meyer, over 12.5 fantasy points. Virginia, bad defense. Michael Meyer, this is a good matchup. They have a very, very slim receiving group right now. They've had some injuries. They're going to be using their tight ends more, and he's one of the best tight ends in the country playing a bottom 10 pass defense. So, yeah, I really like Michael Meyer over 12.5. KJ Jefferson, I plays over 21 fantasy points. He runs the ball a lot, playing a bad LSU team. Letdown spot after Alabama. Devin Leary, over 21.5 fantasy points. He's playing Wake Forest. If you've been watching their games, you know what it is. Isaiah Spiller, over 17.5 fantasy points. Playing Ole Miss is rusty. Like I said, Braylon Allen, over 16.5, over 17.5. Noah Kane, under 9 fantasy points, playing Michigan. Titus Swen, already played Titus Swen. Yeah, he got over 7. Chris Rodriguez, over 99.5 rushing yards. That one's long gone. Probably still like it where it's at. It's at Vandy, but that one went up like 20 fantasy points. I'd probably still play it. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So if I'm trying to string 5 together, if you want me to give you like my 5 strongest ones, I like Braylon Allen's over. If it's still at 18.5, I'd still take it. I like Isaiah Spiller over 17.5 against Ole Miss. I like Michael Meyer over 12.5. I like Jermaine Robertson over 5.5 receptions. That gives us 4. And my strongest one after that, let's see. If you need a 5th one after that, other than what I've mentioned, play Max Holloway in UFC. Over 135.5 significant strikes. He set the significant strike record in his last time out fighting. He had like 450, and now his over-unders at 135. That's it's full 300 less than what he got in his last fight. So if that looks high, well, it's Max Holloway. He is the king of significant strikes. So yeah, they go ahead and throw that as a strong one. I wrapped it up with some of my college football ones. So other than that, that's all I have. If you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. I'll stay on for a couple more minutes. Other than that, best of luck this week. And hopefully we win some money here. Oh, I forgot to plug my PrizePicks promo code. Thank you. Promo code Yonke. All caps, YONKE. If you have not checked out PrizePicks, you need to be doing this. Like I said, it's been the most profitable platform by far for me during the college football season. And someone who sits here and makes DraftKings videos and plays a shit ton of that. PrizePicks has been a cash cow. Will it continue to be? I don't know. The college football season's almost over. It's been a cash cow. Will all those picks I handed out hit? No. But hey, we hit 11 of 13 I tweeted out last week. So I'll tweet out what I just sent out as well. I'll try to tweet out like my 5 most confident ones. But anyway, PrizePicks is awesome. They give you $100 free to play with. If you're a new user, you get $100 free. Use promo code Yonke. That's all caps, YONKE. I will also edit the description of this video. I will put my link. It's up to $100. So you get 100% deposit match. You put in 25, you get 25 free dollars. You put in $50, you get 50 free dollars, etc. So please use that. All caps, YONKE. I guess Yonkers is my ass. It's a little confusing. But anyway, I'll put the link in here as well. YONKE, all caps. All right, fellas, that's all I'm saying. So good luck. If you have anything else, hit me up on Twitter. Like I said, I'm going to be out and about all week or all day, so I'm not going to be watching anything. So hopefully these hit. I don't know. I won't be checking until late. I'm going to be going live in 30 minutes with Paid for Play. Going to be talking betting. So if you're into betting, I don't know who could possibly sit there and watch me for an hour and a half. But if you're interested in talking some college football, I will be going live. It'll be going live from this YouTube channel in 30 minutes. So best of luck.